You're listening to the Write Project podcast and radio program, a show about writing and modern Newfoundland author culture. This program is produced and recorded at CHMR FM 93.5 FM in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, and is aired on other great stations in the province and elsewhere in the country. It can also be heard online at www.chmr.ca. I'm your host, Matthew LeDrew. Welcome to a very special episode of the Write Project podcast. Today, we've got a host of authors on to answer one of the most frequent questions that's asked of any author. We're asking them,
do you ever Google yourself? And if so, what comes up? How happy are you with the results?
And today to answer, we have on Heather Reilly, author of The Binding of the Almatraek series, coming soon from Engen Books. Heather Reilly, do you ever Google yourself?
I did once. It came up with my author page in my books. That's it.
Thank you very much. Next we have Rhea Rollman, contributing author to Acceptance, Stories from the Center of Us, profits from which support Quadrangle, as well as the solo non-fiction book tentatively titled A Queer History of St. John's, Newfoundland. Rhea Rollman, do you ever Google yourself? And if so, are you pleased with the results?
I wouldn't want to confess doing that, but yeah, I kind of do. But it's taken on a whole new meaning now because I've changed my name. And so, it's it's part of the process of trying to figure out, okay, where does my old, when I first came out and changed my name, there was a whole process of trying to figure out, okay, where all does my name appear and how do I change it? So that was a bit of an ordeal. It's an ongoing ordeal, actually. I still find my old name popping up where I least expect it. So yeah, that I kind of did that as part of a forensic process of trying to affect a full-scale identity change.
My most liked post from 2020 had nothing to do with my books at the time or my publishing company or anything like that because we didn't publish you then. But it was inspired by you. I didn't name you, and I don't know if you ever saw it. I don't know if we're friends on Facebook actually, or whatever, what have you. But I was having an ordeal because, and I would never have brought this up, but you already brought it up, kind of thing. I was having an ordeal because we'd just gotten the message from CHMR that that you would like to be called by your real name, by Rhea Rollman now. And I said, very good, and just immediately did it. However, because that's just what you do, but Gmail kept, every time I went to email you, would automatically assume that, like, if, at the start of the email, it would try to automatically autofill in your dead name every time. And I would be like, start an email and be like, hey, here's the latest episode of Write Project. And so many times I almost clicked send before I looked and was like, oh my God, it autofilled again. And I would go back and update it. And to my knowledge, I did it every time. But I had an email waiting to go that, like, in case I messed up and you got offended, that said, like, it was autofill. I'm so sorry. OMG, friggin' autofill. So I made a post that was basically like the tension that occurs when this stupid autofill keeps unintentionally dead naming my friends. It's not me. It's the autofill. I hate you, Google. That got something like 300 and something likes. Every trans person I know shared it out. It was just like, yes, this, stop this, Google. Like, yeah.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. And thank you for taking the time to pay attention to that.
Oh, no, it was my pleasure. Yeah, sure, my pleasure. But it's more the tension of I hope I never got it wrong.
Yeah. No, it's so frustrating. I've seen what you talk about, and there's a whole interesting dialogue going on in the tech community about this because it's really underscores how historically, so much of our society, including our technologies, were geared around the idea that we all have these fixed identities that never change, so like your name and your, whatever. And what tech and society at large is slowly coming around to is that no, identities are fluid and they do change. There's no such thing as a fixed identity, and they need to stop embedding this notion of a fixed identity, a permanent identity, in technology. Technologies need to be designed to be fluid and to enable people to change their identities as necessary. So it's like, it shouldn't. I've had immense bureaucratic hassles with various companies trying to get my name changed. The fact that you have to do these expensive and time-consuming legal name changes. So a lot of companies are starting to come around, and they're starting to make it easier to do this.
There should be a service. There should be like a free service where you message, like where they get a government grant, and like you make an application to the service, and you say, "Hey, please keep my stuff confidential. After the fact, wipe everything for me," so that people in that situation don't have to go through that, because it's painful and time-consuming.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's start that. Let's talk about that another day. That service doesn't exist. That seems like something that we can get on once this book is done. That sounds like fun.
Cool.
There you go. This conversation is about to go a weird way, bizarre way. And again, if we cut this out, that's fine. Anything that anywhere that any of these conversations go, if after the fact you're like, can we cut that? I'm like, absolutely. You know what I mean? Okay. You're talking about tech and how like a lot of it's rooted in that stuff that we don't think about, that just kind of like, because I've worked in tech, like you're coding it and there's a lot of stuff to consider and you don't consider it. You know what I mean? It's rough. No one's saying that it's in any way malicious, but at some point not patching a problem out, because at some point when you go so long without patching a problem out, it becomes malicious. Weird thing. What's all computer tech at the very least, because even a shovel's technology, but like all computer tech's based on one system that's really that explaining it helped me a lot in coming to terms with identity and learning about this stuff once I got out in the world and kind of left my small town a little bit and experienced more people in the community and stuff like that. I'm a very tech-driven person, even though I'm in the arts. When I'm thinking about stuff, the biggest thing for me to get past is binary thinking. And it's something like that, all things, like, oh, you're either right or wrong. It's either black or white. You're either with me or against me. And it's something that took, like, therapy and adulthood and, like, some medication to get over, because it's not healthy. You know what I mean? Like, someone's not either with you or against you. There's different stuff. But I kind of, for a long time, thought like a computer. Like I was very like, here you go. Like I don't know how you picture your brain working, but like, or some people don't picture their brain working, but like when I think about my brain, I think about where the things go, like where the dots are, like, and go. And sometimes I'll think of my brain as a Rolodex, like, oh, what's Rhea's email address? And I'll go like this with my hands. Like I'll squish my fingers back and forth, and I'm literally picturing myself opening my brain and flicking through it like a Rolodex, but I don't do it over my hair because that'll look insane. So I'm just doing this. Like it's all ones and zeros. It's just how I coded myself. What was really helpful to me, and that's how computers are coded, in binary, in ones and zeros. It's either on or off. What was really helpful to me was to learn what quantum computing is. Do you know what quantum computing is?
Not really, no.
It's something they're trying to get on the go now to save space. So basically, if you have a 1 terabyte drive, let's say you have a hard drive that you have your stuff on right now in your office that has 1 terabyte on it, that breaks down to all ones and zeros. It's either on or off. That's every bit of information is in that terabyte of worth of it. If we recoded that to add even just a third option, if it was 1, 0, and the letter A, so on, off, something else, that same hard drive would be able to do 30 times as much data because of all the different options that it could do. So that's the next step in this, where with the same information, we can recode that basic from the 60s when we created binary. Why would we ever want more than two options? A computer's never going to be something the average person can afford. That choice that made perfect sense at the time, if you change that even just a little, it goes exponentially. It doesn't times by 3, it times by 3 for each byte.
Wow.
It goes insane. And that's just adding, like, again, 0, 1, or let's say the letter A or the number 2 or whatever to the byte stream. Imagine if you added the alphabet.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it's that same hard drive could power everything. All
cool.
that data. Yeah. So learning about that personally and the way that I think about my own brain was like, oh, let's do an upgrade. You know what I mean? Like, let's maybe things aren't so like black and white, us versus them, me versus the me versus the people against me. Maybe there's room for the letter A, and kind of just slowly upgraded myself. I know it's a weird thing to say, but that's how I think of my brain, like a computer, and went like, no, there's more. And look, and now I feel like I'm up to an alphabet. Now I feel like I'm like, all right, running full speed.
I think there's a great metaphor there, because I mean, that's, when you add diversity, when you add all these additional potentials, then it makes your society, it makes everything so much richer and bigger. And I think that's what we're seeing now when we're allowing for a multiplicity of identities. When I guess in response to people who are like, like, why do we need to do that? It's like, well, it makes our whole human experience, our society, everything so much richer and adds so much more potential, just the same way as it makes your hard drive exponentially more able to do so many more things. It makes us as a species, as humanity, able to do so many more things when we start to go beyond the binary.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so cool.
But it is. I love that. Like the amount, like if the hard drive is an allegory for technology, like for life or for society, just going one step beyond the binary, you can accomplish a millionfold more. It's incredible.
That's wonderful. Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Next on the line, we have Bridget Canning, author of The Greatest Hits of Wanda James.
Do you ever Google yourself?
Yes, I do. I think my fiance has a Google notification for like whenever something comes up. I keep a website, so I do post like press and things like that. So if someone has posted a review, I'll usually put a link to it on my website.
Wow. Thank you very much. Next we have
poet Jason Normore, currently serving as youth advocate on the board of Writers NL.
Jason, do you ever Google yourself? And if so, are you happy with the results?
Yeah. Dude, yes, of course I Google myself. Who hasn't? If people haven't, it's just fascinating to see. Like it's kind of like the whole thing in the digital age. It becomes like who else is really sitting down Googling Jason Normore? If anyone, lucky me, but I doubt it. But it's kind of just another way to like fascinatingly look back at your life and what's been like archived about you on this like developing internet that's consuming all of our realities. So
how old are you?
30.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I wasn't sure if you were young enough that you that Google always existed for you, which is terrifying to me. You know what I mean?
I'm that awkward middle ground where like, I still remember like when my friend Dan texted me and was like, do you have Facebook? Do you know what that is? And I was like, what is that? Like, so I have a sense and a semblance of life without it, but then also just kind of like drank the Kool-Aid. Here we are.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Rebecca North, author of Elliot and the Impossible Fish from Breakwater Books. Do you ever Google yourself, your own name or anything like that?
Sometimes, I guess it seems like there's a pretty well-known wildlife biologist named Rebecca North as well, so she gets more Google cred than me. But yeah, once in a while I Google myself.
Well, eventually this will find its way to YouTube, and that always lifts up the Google search results. You'll see more of yourself eventually.
Thanks.
Thanks, I think. Thank you very much. Next we have
the editor of Land of Many Shores, a new collection from Breakwater Books that features stories from a diverse crowd of Newfoundland and Labradorians. We have the editor, Ainsley Hawthorne, on the line. Ainsley Hawthorne, have you ever Googled yourself? And if so, are you happy with the results?
Yeah, I have Googled myself, and I have Google alerts set up and all that stuff. And I am happy with the results. I'm lucky to be the only person of my name, as far as I can tell, with a record on Google. So that makes it easier to sort me
That's
out.
rare.
People. Yeah. I have an unusual name, but I'm happy with it. And every so often I'll go in and you can sort by things that are posted recently, like in the past month.
Yep.
And I'll find things that I didn't know existed or hadn't been brought to my attention. Like sometimes an article I've written is quoted in a news story or something. And I like to find that because that's very rewarding to see when people are, using your work. They find your work worthwhile. That's how I found out that by Googling and seeing what had been posted recently, I found out that one of the articles I wrote about, it's about the superhumanization bias and how it pertains to how society views Black people, because we tend, and this is everyone in our culture tends to think of Black men in particular as stronger, less susceptible to pain. So I wrote an article about that. And it was used in a case before the Supreme Court of the United States. It was cited
in
a petition. It was amazing. It was very moving, actually, to have my work used as sort of background or an expert resource or what have you on that topic. So I do like to Google myself, because otherwise I'd never know that things like that were going on.
Okay, but that's amazing. You're a celebrity. That's insane. But also, is there recording of them saying that? Because I would love to hear some Supreme Court justice just butchering your name, just trying to say it. It'd be amazing.
Well, it's, as far as I can tell, it was cited in a petition to the Supreme Court, and then they choose amongst the petitions which cases will come before them.
Okay.
So I haven't gone back to see if the justices of the Supreme Court accepted it as one of the cases that come before them, because they might, I forget what the numbers are, but they might only hear 10% of the cases that people request be heard by them.
I would love to have a job like that. Can you imagine if you went into work and you only had to do 10% of what your boss told you to, and you got to decide what 10% it was? You just told them to F off with the rest of it.
Well, in fairness, it's because they just do not have time.
Yeah.
Hearing 10% of what's out there is a full-time job. Yeah. If someone had to deal with the other 90%, you'd need 10 times more Supreme Court justices.
Which we need.
Which we could use, especially in the U.S.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Ellen Curtis, who is the author of the Infinity series from Engen Books, as well as the editor of the From the Rock anthology. Have you ever Googled yourself?
For a little while, I had a
Google
alert set up, yeah. And I think I still get the emails. I just haven't turned it off, and I just always delete them. But, I mean, it's never usually things about me. Even when I've got stuff on and I've got articles being written or I've made an appearance somewhere, it'll still be people with part of my name that show up.
You've got a name that you share your name with a few, even if you include your middle name, you share your name with a few historical figures. Not big historical figures, but a few.
No.
But people who have had articles or something written, minor stuff, but
more often it's someone with part of my name will come up.
Thank you very much. Next on the line, we have Brad Dunn, author of After Dark Vapors.
Brad Dunn, do you ever Google yourself? And if so, are you happy with the results?
So I Google myself if I need to find stuff that I published. I need to like basically dig it up for whatever reason. But I haven't Googled myself for like, is someone talking about me kind of thing.
For
But
recreational reasons?
I think my mom does. One time, one of the first things I published with the Walrus was a piece about Superman.
Yep.
And so like Man of Steel had just come out, and it was kind of like, well, you know, the connection to Toronto through what's his name? The guy who drew him. Joe Shuster?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was from Toronto, and you know, and so I wrote about it, and like, you know, how does Superman relate to the modern era, and basically being like, well, you know, Man of Steel certainly doesn't answer that question.
No, it does not.
Pretty garbage movie, and some troll like just like really liked Man of Steel and was like a Zack Snyder fanboy. It was just like, you know, he made multiple posts on the story, basically telling me how much of an idiot I am and don't understand the character of Superman. And I remember, I was in Toronto at the time. My mom called me up the phone, being like, "Who is this person writing all these mean things about you in the article?" And I'm like, "Mom, it's called an internet troll. Like, these people, they're miserable. Don't worry about it."
Yeah. Oh my! Clearly, you don't understand the character of Superman, Brad.
Yeah. I probably don't. That's all right.
He's a neck snapper who is a rage monster. Clearly.
Yeah, he really. Honestly, I think Zack Snyder could have made a good Batman movie, but
I don't think he could have, because I've seen the second book. I've seen the second movie.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, I think, but he's like, he has these weird libertarian, like objectivism views.
Yep.
That is very like not what Superman is.
Yep.
Superman is very much like, I use my power for the public good. Like, I am here for the people, and I serve the people, and that's what I do. Whereas Batman is like, I'm doing this because of my personal vendetta and my own like needs to work through my issues. And I think that's more of what Snyder was going for, and it's probably why Justice League was such a mess, because it's like, I watched the Snyder cut for like, I don't know, 20 minutes, and it's just like this long diatribe exposition of Wonder Woman trying to explain why it's okay for Justice League to come together as a collectivist action, as opposed to, you know, communism, which is bad, and there's all kinds of like Red Scare stuff in it. I'm like, dude, like,
calm down.
This is Justice League, bro. Like, come on.
Yeah.
This got Martian Manhunter in it. Like, give me a break.
Yeah, there's that's I haven't seen the Snyder cut. I couldn't have been bothered to have seen the Snyder cut, just because I'm like, like it's like that old question, how can a match burn twice? It's like, how can a movie burn me twice? It's like, no, you got me last time.
Yeah. Although I will say, I didn't hate the Joss Whedon Justice League, because I feel like, for whatever its faults, it's like, yeah, it's a 90-minute action movie. Like, okay. But like, I'm sure as hell not watching a 4-hour Justice League movie.
I feel like the only benefit to the Joss Whedon cut is that, like, it knows what it is, where it's like, okay, this is schlock. Let's get out of here in 90 minutes. It's just to entertain people. Let's have some fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't even watch Justice League until like the Joss Whedon cut until like 2 years later. I was just like, nah, I couldn't find anything else on Netflix. I was very done after Batman v Superman. I was just like, no.
Well, the great irony is that basically he was trying to do in 4 hours of Justice League what Joss Whedon had done very easily in like 2 hours and whatever change with Avengers, which is like, how do you both celebrate individualism while also coming together as a group? I mean, that's the whole Avengers first one, and it does it quite well, and doesn't need a 20-minute exposition to start the movie.
Yeah. Oh.
And then I think what made me turn it off was like, I don't know, I think it was like, what's the villain's name?
Darkseid?
No, Steppenwolf. So
Okay.
Steppenwolf is like talking the dark side, and it's something like, Earth. It's been lost in the and it's like, man, you were there. Like, you're this advanced civilization. You can't find Google Maps to get your way back to Earth, and you're this like, intergalactic empire.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah, no, and that's the problem when it starts taking itself too seriously. Those plot holes become apparent. Where if you're just having fun, like there are tons of plot holes in some of the Marvel movies,
Oh
but
yeah,
they're not
yeah,
taking themselves seriously. They are nakedly just for fun. So it's like, all right, well, who cares about this plot hole? Shut up, it's a popcorn movie. But when you think you're making high art, suddenly it's like the critic in you comes out. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and everyone likes to pick apart the Star Wars sequels for plot holes, but it's like, well, in the original New Hope, why does the Death Star go to warp speed to stop behind a moon in front of a planet and wait for the moon so they can shoot with the laser? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, they can just go, let's just, okay, we're going to go warp speed and we're going to shoot this planet and, not wait for a moon to pass by. But you don't see it because it's like just good popcorn fun, and you're on the roller coaster.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's how you build tension in a scene, not with logic all the time. Yeah. We should do like those podcasts where we just yell at a movie, like where we do an audio commentary. We would have so much fun doing an audio commentary.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Paul Carberry, author of the Zombies on the Rock series from Engen Books. Have you ever Googled yourself?
Yes, I have.
What comes up?
The horse rider.
Yes, there is a horse rider named Paul Carberry.
Paul Carberry, I guess they're equestrians, or is that the horse?
I have no idea.
I don't know either, but he's very famous horse rider. I believe he won the Kentucky Derby.
Maybe.
Or the Golden Crown, or the Triple Crown.
Interesting.
He's very, very interesting, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
And he also wrote a book.
Yes, he wrote an autobiography. Yeah, because
it's called Paul Carberry.
Yeah, it comes up on Goodreads when you like it. We've tried to unlink you a few times. It doesn't work. Thank you very much. Next, we have
Carrie Cole, the amazing author of Rock, Paper, Sex and the newly released Rock, Paper, Sex Trigger Warning. Carrie Cole, do you ever Google yourself? And if so, are you happy with the results?
I have in the past. I haven't for a while, but I have before. And yeah, I mean, it's parts of my life. So I mean, by saying I'm not happy with the results would mean I have some regrets about life decisions. And I mean, I don't really feel that way. It's just kind of, it's the internet, and sometimes I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have posted that picture, or I look weird in that picture or whatever. But generally, I don't really put much emphasis into that. It's
okay. I was more thinking of like I am often unhappy with the results, but only because when I type in Matthew LeDrew and review, and I'm looking for reviews of my own books, what comes up are books I've reviewed. Like it thinks that's, and I'm like,
no, okay, I don't do anything like that. Like I never type in like, my God, I haven't done it in a while, but like I would just put in my name and see what came up. Yeah, and so I wouldn't put in like Carrie Cole Rock Paper Sex or Carrie Cole book reviews or anything like that. It's just those things exist, and I don't know if it would better my life by going into that rabbit hole of what people on the internet have said about me or what is there. I mean, there's nothing I could do about it. So
yeah, and I don't either really anymore. I used to when I had a day job and I was kind of bored at work and you're just running out of things to Google. But like, I nowadays when people are talking about it, I'm like, what's the best result you could get from this? Like on topic one, like best possible result, you're a little bit less bored than you were a moment ago. Worst possible result, you find something somebody said that was soul crushing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if it's a useful exercise.
All right, well, thanks for coming on again. For all of you, we'll be here again next week at 4:30 Newfoundland time or online at chmr.ca. Please tune in and we'll talk more about writing culture in Newfoundland.